Hey folks, happy Monday, and Pat Flynn here. We're going to talk about how to build muscle with kettlebells. Is it possible? What is the best way to do it? We're going to discuss all of these things, and we're even going to give you a sneak peek at one of our strong on workouts that has a muscle building emphasis. So welcome. Let me know what you are drinking in the comments, and we'll dive right into it. So a quick, I have Alex here and Alyssa helping me out. Pat, what's up? What's going on, everybody? I'm going to talk about building muscle with kettlebells. How to do it? Well, first off, I guess the first question is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible to build muscle with kettlebells. So we'll talk about a few important principles, and then we'll give you a workout that you can use. This is one of our Strong On workouts. You're going to get a sneak peek into our new Strong On program, which is sort of our online daily workout program that recently launched. So we'll give you a look at tomorrow's workout, actually, a workout of the future, which has a muscle-building emphasis. It's called Glorious Gainer. So we always like to have fun with naming our workouts. Joy, how are you? Nate, what's up? Congratulations, Nate, on the wedding. Charlotte, how are you? Christine, hello. All right, so building muscle with kettlebells. It comes up all the time. Pat, can you build muscle? Of course you can build muscle with kettlebells, right? Muscle isn't specific to the tool, right? Muscle is specific to the approach or the program, or even more particularly the variable. So it's some tools are better fitted for doing some jobs than other tools. But what's most important for building muscle is making sure that you're using the right mixture of variables and that you're also eating enough, right? That you're maintaining a sufficient caloric surplus. I shouldn't have trouble with a word like surplus. If I'm having trouble with the word like surplus, and maintaining a sufficient caloric surplus to actually gain weight. Now, when it comes to building muscle, there's a few variables that we want to pay particular attention to. Intensity is obviously one of them. We need to make sure that we are lifting against a sufficient amount of resistance to stimulate muscle growth. Now, this is where kettlebells can be limiting, in the sense that if you just have a really light set of kettlebells, you're just going to face a certain amount of difficulty building muscle. But if you have kettlebells that are heavy enough, then of course you can build muscle with kettlebells, right? And the reason that we often think of the barbell being the best muscle building tool is it's just the easiest to manipulate intensity with, right? It's easiest to go really heavy with barbell work, and the barbell is a fantastic tool for gaining muscle. But just because the barbell is great for gaining muscle doesn't mean that kettlebells can't be great for gaining muscle either. We just want to make sure that we, again, are taking the right approach and that we have the right mixture of variables. Now, my training personally doesn't have any type of overemphasis on gaining muscle. I focus a lot on gaining strength, and so like most of the muscle that I have is really just a byproduct of being strong, and I think that's a really important principle to understand before we get into this. Ricardo, how are you? Folks who are just joining, let me know what you're having to drink in the comments. And what I mean by this is if you focus on getting strong, like really strong, gaining muscle will not only happen by consequence, and I mean like a lean, hard, dense muscle. Don't worry about bulking up and looking like a linebacker or anything like that, but a good, lean, hard, dense, functional muscle will happen by consequence. Also, the stronger you are, the more potential you have for muscle. For example, you can run a simple thought experiment. Who's going to have the easier time putting on muscle, or who's going to be inherently more muscular? The person who can bench press or military press, because we're speaking with kettlebells, the person who can military press 24 kilograms for 5 reps, or the person who can military press 40 kilograms for 5 reps. Clearly, the person with more strength, at the very least, has more potential to gain muscle, because they have more room to explore with their variables. So if nothing else, if you just really focus on getting stronger, like increasing your absolute limit strength, you'll not only gain muscle that way, but you will set up potential for more muscle growth if you want to add muscle. Now, that's just the intensity variable. What we should also consider are, for example, the density variable. So muscle tends to respond to a certain amount of work done over a certain amount of time also. So if you want to really develop just a lot of strength, but you don't necessarily want to stimulate or maximize hypertrophy or muscle growth, you could focus on intensity and volume and not worry so much about density. So just focusing on overall work, but not necessarily trying to condense it or cram it into a certain amount of time. If you want to stimulate a little bit more muscle growth, this is when we want to start thinking about the density variable of really starting to condense our work over a certain amount of time and maybe extend the rep range. So these aren't necessarily hard rules as they are just guiding principles, right? So everyone kind of bickers over this, and the more people really bicker over something, that tells me the less they fundamentally understand, right? So all these are just guiding principles, right? So when we say that, hey, 1 to 5 reps is kind of the strength range, that's a guiding principle. That's not a hard rule. Of course you can gain muscle training into 1 to 5 rep range, right? And when people say the 5 to 12 rep range is that's the muscle rep range, again, that's a guiding principle. That's not a hard rule or law, because of course you're going to gain strength in that rep range as well. It's just, what are we trying to emphasize and how are we setting up our training program, right? So I think it would probably be most helpful if we gave you a good example of how to combine these things. And this is where we can kind of show you one of the workouts we've devised. So one of my favorite routines or methods for gaining muscle with kettlebells is to use a type of density training or density sets called EMOM sets. So give some likes or grunts of acknowledgement if you have ever done an EMOM set before. And an EMOM set simply means every minute on the minute. And the way this works is you will pick an exercise, preferably like a full body compound exercise, something that is going to stimulate a decent amount of strength and hypertrophy. One of my favorites would be the double clean and press, for example. The front squat is another good one. So this is another principle, right? If we want to really focus on full body strength and muscle development, we want to prioritize the big compound lifts. This doesn't mean that isolation lifts don't help. They can help, and often they do help. But where are we shifting our priority, right? We want to make sure that our priority, our emphasis is on those big full body compound lifts. That's going to stimulate the most strength and the most muscle growth overall. So one thing we can do is we could take 2 big lifts, like the double clean and press and the front squat, and we could do some type of every minute on the minute routine. And then we could wave this or vary it throughout the week. So we're kind of hitting the different rep ranges that will help us to maximize both strength and muscle development. So sometimes we could go heavier with less reps. Other times we could go a little bit lighter for more reps. Is this making sense? Give me some grunts of acknowledgement if this is clicking or if you have any questions. And what we'll do is we'll give you a sneak peek. Actually, we'll do that right now. Let me give you a sneak peek of one of our Strong On workouts, which is coming tomorrow. This is called the Glorious Gainer. And this is definitely a strength and muscle building emphasized workout. So let's see if Alex and Alyssa are ready. We'll take you through this one. You guys ready?
Ready to go.
We're just talking about EMOM sets and building muscle. So let's take a look to the holy board here. This is where we kind of brainstorm and concoct all of the Strong On workouts. So it might be a little hard to see, but the workout is called Glorious Gainer. And the focus is building strength and muscle. Thank you for the grunt, Ricardo. Block 1 is a warm-up. Block 2 is where we're really going to do the most of the work, which is this every minute on the minute. And this is where it gets tough, because we're going to do 8 reps on the minute, every minute, of double clean and press for 5 minutes, then front squat for 5 minutes. But first, let's do a little warm-up. So Alex, I'm going to take us through this warm-up.
Yes, sir.
And then Alyssa's going to do the hard work and heavy lifting. Cool. So we'll start with some YTLs and make sure we're properly prepping all the shoulders. So Alex, let us know what's important for this.
Big thing that's important for this is you want to make sure that your forehead or your chin is on the ground. You don't want to have your head up like this. Otherwise, you're not really getting your upper back and shoulder girdle warmed up. It's really more low back. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is you want to keep your thumbs pointed to the sky. It's going to help make sure that you're recruiting the right muscles.
Mm-hmm. So people often ask, before we get into our workouts, what's a good warm-up? Here you go. This warm-up is fairly specific to this workout, but it's also a good generalist warm-up. So just doing YTLs. You can do these with TRX also, but in case you don't have that, this is a really good variation there. All right, so Alex, what are you going to do after this?
So up next, what we're going to do is dead bugs. And a couple of nuances for the dead bug. So first and foremost,
Yeah, what are we doing the dead bug for? What is this?
yeah, the dead bug is going to help wake up the core, and it's also going to help us work on getting the whole body moving together all at once. So the big thing here is you want to make sure that your tailbone is coming off the ground. So if you try to pull your knees as close to your chest as you can, that'll be very helpful. I'll show you the beginner version at first. So you're right here, you touch the opposite side, and then the sides that are not touching, you're going to very lightly touch to the ground. Okay? Do the same thing on the other side. All the while, you don't want this leg to go down this way because then your abs aren't doing anything. Once I have my knee above the belt line, that's when my abs are going to be turned on. Okay? And then the more advanced variation, or just the standard variation, would be like this. And again, you can touch the opposite side, or you can keep the other side perfectly still.
Perfect.
Just like that.
People who are just joining in and see that the title is a muscle building workout, this is the warm-up.
If you can build muscle up,
If you can build muscle with dead bugs, we'd
be.
be impressed, but that isn't the point of the dead bug. We're just getting prepped. All right, cool. So after the dead bug, where are we going with this?
Next, we're going to do the crawling.
All right, so
once again, now here's the deal with the crawling. You want to move with the opposite side, so you don't want to try to do this sort of a thing. It's really awkward, and it's really not going to help you do all that much. You want to keep your head forward. You want to stay relaxed. You want to kind of move like a cat. You're not trying to be super stiff, and you want to move the same way that you would walk. So that means just one step right after the other. Now you can start off as a beginner, just doing this with the knees on the ground. If you're a little bit more advanced, you can bring the knees off the ground.
Now that's majestic.
Oh, yeah.
That,
This will probably be your favorite part of the workout.
that.
You can also go backward if you're feeling frisky. Since you're moving like a cat, you're probably going to feel pretty frisky.
All right, so after the frisky warm-up, we're going to get into the actual workout. So, Alyssa, you're going to be our demonstrator today. So we talked about, one of the important things, and it's hard to see on the board, for building muscle, is not only intensity but density, trying to cram in a certain amount of work over a certain amount of time. So we're going to do every minute on the minute sets, and we're going to start with double clean and press. Now, we're going to try and do a lot of work in a little amount of time with the most amount of load that we can. Now, there's always trade-off. So as we go higher in reps, we're not going to be able to always go higher in weight. And that's why long-term program design is important, because you want to wave and manipulate variables from workout to workout. So if muscle gain or something like that is your goal, you can't just use one workout all the time.
Yeah.
You have to follow some type of program. So this is just one example of what a workout in a muscle building program with kettlebells might look like. I want to be very clear about that, right? And then, like I said, we could switch the variables around when we go to do this again on day 3 and go a little bit heavier for a little less reps, just to give a simple idea of what it might look like.
Yeah, this is right on the brink for me. So if I did 5 reps, I would bump this up to 12.
Yep, so we're doing 8 reps on the minute every minute for 5 minutes. This is definitely a good amount of density work. All right, so do we have a timer? Let's just show a few sets. So we're focusing on double clean and press because this is a really good full body strength and muscle building exercise. We get the grind, but if you really want to develop the shoulders, the upper pecs, the triceps, the double clean and press is going to be one of your best go-to kettlebell exercises for adding muscle in that area. In those areas, I should say. Upper back too, for sure, from the double clean. And people will be surprised at how well double cleans can even develop the biceps as well. Nice. Greg, do you consider more total load or total volume? It depends on the day. So as we talked about this at the beginning of the video, you might have missed it. So Alyssa's going to rest for the remainder of the minute, and then she's going to go again. So the goal is to go at the top of every minute. For this work, for this routine, we're focusing specifically on density and total load. Right, but like I said, we might vary that and manipulate that throughout the program. And that's the difference between a program and a workout. A lot of times with workouts, it's either or. But with a program, it's both and. Right? And we want to explore and manipulate the variables as we move through
our programming. All right, so
I don't know, we'll pretend.
there we go. Look at those triceps. That's what this type of routine will get you.
Turn your triceps into triceps.
And that's what I wanted to mention too. Like, people hear, gaining muscle with kettlebells. My training is never focused on quote unquote bulking up. And the type of muscle I'm talking about is kind of that lean, harder, denser, more quote unquote functional, shapelier muscle. And a lot of that is just a natural byproduct of getting stronger. All right, so she's going to keep doing this here. And you can see that already, I'm sure the lactic acid is building up.
Oh, yeah.
This is no doubt a lactic acid type of workout. Henry, what's up? And this is good. We want to lean into this type of construction of variables if we want to build muscle at least some of the time. Not all of the time, but at least some of the time.
Not sure exactly where we're at, but we'll pretend.
Yeah, we'll go. So here's what will happen with this routine for most people. If you're pushing the intensity, which you should, you need to go heavy with this, meaning heavy relative to what's prescribed for the sets and reps. You're going to get to round 4 or 5, and things are going to start to slow down or stall. That means you're doing it right. We don't necessarily, want to compromise with poor technique at any point. But we want to make those last 2 sets should really be a grind. And I'm not against if you get to that last set and you even have to do a few push presses to finish the routine. Michael, what's going on? Kaz, how are you doing? You want to finish it off?
I was going to say, should we pretend that I'm on front squats?
Yeah, let's pretend that you want. We won't watch her suffer all the way through this. All right. So then what you will do is after 5 minutes of double clean and press, you will switch to front squats and do the same thing. 8 reps on the minute, every minute for 5 minutes. Kaz, what's up? Let us know what you're having to drink in the comments. We are giving people a sneak peek of tomorrow's Strong On routine, which has a strength and muscle building emphasis. So some of the principles we've talked about at the top of the video is that, 1, can you build muscle with kettlebells? Of course you could build muscle with kettlebells. Muscle is not specific to the instrument. Muscle is specific to resistance and variables. So long as you apply the appropriate amount of resistance and variables to your training routine, and you have the right size kettlebells to match those resistance and variables, of course you can build muscle with kettlebells. Of course you can. And we're just giving one example of what such a routine would look like that would emphasize strength and muscle development. And we're showing a routine that has a strong density focus of doing 8 reps on the minute, every minute for 5 minutes of double clean and press and front squat. And the reason that we choose double clean and press and front squat is these are great compound full body exercises that are going to stimulate a lot of strength and muscle development. Now, again, are isolation exercises bad? No, they are just a tool. And the idea is, where do we want to focus our priority? We should focus our priority on the big compound lifts, and then we can figure out how we want to work in smaller isolated lifts after that. Sean, it seems like when the focus is on muscle building more than fat loss, you need to access a wider range of kettlebells and a way of modifying with people who have a more limited selection. Sean, it's difficult because, like I said, a lot of it comes down to the resistance and the variables. And the truth is if you're beyond a certain point, like if I can military press 2 36 kilogram kettlebells, I'm not going to get a lot of hypertrophy benefit if I suddenly am only stuck with a 16 kilogram kettlebell. That's just a hard truth. So you want to make sure, again, it's using the best tool for the job. A 16 kilogram kettlebell is great for a lot of stuff. And for some people, relatively, may be the right tool for building strength and muscle depending on where they're at the journey. But if you've outgrown that for certain lifts, then you do need to just invest in a new set of bells or invest in a place where you can access a wider set of bells. So that way you can make sure you're matching the kettlebells to whatever variables are assigned in your program for focusing on that strength and muscle. Good?
I'm Sufficiently good.
You're sufficiently
3
good?
sets of both
Let's
seems fine to me.
let's bring it in and talk a little bit more.
We can keep that last part of the workout a secret. We'll keep that last part a secret. That was a good question, though, Sean. And yeah, at some point, you do, and it also depends. How strong do you want to be? How much muscle do you want to gain? We'll get you in here. There he is, folks. There he is. Kathleen, I wondered about the weights and number of bells too. So, for this workout specifically, I would imagine that most men are going to probably use somewhere around like 20 to 24 kilogram kettlebell for the EMOM work. If you can do it with 28s, that's impressive. If you can hit 8 reps on the minute every minute for 5 minutes without extending the time with 2 28 kilogram kettlebells, double thumbs up. For the front squats, either the same or just shifting up a size bell for men. Are we all going to try and squeeze in here? All right, not too close. Not too close. There we go. So for women, it probably somewhere between, what did you use, 8?
8.
8
to 12.
8 to
16's
12.
a beast.
If you could do this with 16, again, I'd be really impressed. And then front squat, same thing, maybe shifting a bell size up. Use that last set as sort of a metric. If you're like this close to failing on that last set, then you're probably using the right size weight for this workout. Carter, what's going on? Kathleen, I'm 73 on Wednesday. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Wow. So we didn't assign age brackets, but it certainly could be appropriate on this. But I think you'll like this routine. It's a lot of fun. So, guiding principles that we talked about before. Muscle is not specific to any tool. You can build muscle with kettlebells. You can build muscle with body weight. You can build muscle with barbell. What's important is the program design itself. Resistance, repetition, and all of the mix of variables. And making sure that you are doing a program, not necessarily just a workout. So we gave you an example workout, right? But what you're not seeing is what we're doing after that first workout, with the second workout, right? And how the variables kind of twist and manipulate over time. So we wanted to demonstrate a routine that focused on the variable of the right, of kind of an aggressive density routine, because we said density is an important variable for the muscle equation. It's not the variable. There is no the variable. And intensity, it's kind of balancing and waving these different variables between intensity, density, volume, to make sure we're getting that right mix to stimulate the response that we want. Any closing words, friends?
I think that about covers it.
That's it.
So I'm seeing that Henry's birthday is my birthday, November 22nd.
Are you going to be 73 as well?
No, I'm not.
What else? Folks, give this a shot. Let us know what you think if you give it a run in the comments. Even if nothing else, if you just do this is like going to be a great workout no matter what. You're going to sweat. You're going to burn a ton of calories. You're gonna enjoy it a lot. And this is also a sneak peek of our new Strong On program. So if you want to hear a little bit more about that, drop me a message. We'll sneak you a link. All right, folks, we'll be tuning back in here, maybe even later today. Maybe we're feeling pretty excited on this Monday, and when we get excited, we sometimes do
We go a little crazy.
too many Facebook Lives
Yeah.
in one day. So we'll see you on the next episode, whenever that is.
Have fun. Happy training.